Hi, everybody. Good evening and welcome to your application support session with the Circle Incubation. Today, if you signed up for this session, we are going to focus specifically on the application itself. As we wait, we're going to hope that everybody who's signed up is also entering. We're actually going to begin with a quick poll to see how you're feeling about the application itself. Now, the plan was to take you through the application, the questions that are in the application, share a little bit about that and how the flow is going to look, a little bit about the timeline itself. But we also have Sandeep and Pooja here. And so as more people are joining in, I would want to ask each of you to share one thing. Sandeep, I would love to for you to share with us what your hope is for this cohort, incoming cohort for the incubation. And Pooja, one thing that I would love for you to share with everybody is what are you most excited about for the incoming cohort to experience in their first, right? So Sandeep, what your hope is for this incoming cohort. Pooja, what you're most excited about. Just to introduce you to everybody. Hi, everybody. This is Arshia. I am leading recruitment, outreach and labs at the Circle. We have Sandeep Rai with us, who is founder and CEO at the Circle. And we have Pooja with us, who is head of programs and specifically also leads the Circle Incubation end to end. And so she works with the entrepreneurs most closely. The Circle Incubation, as you all already know, since most of you started your application, is a 2-year program that will help you design, launch, and run an innovative breakthrough school or after school center for children who need it most in India so that they can build an India filled with love and free of poverty. So, Cindy, I would love for you to now share.
Yeah, thanks for that, Aisha. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here with all of you. It's good to see all of you this Sunday evening. I think my greatest hope is that this next cohort of entrepreneurs that we incubate is able to build a collection of schools that just redefine what's possible for kids from low-income backgrounds. Like, that's my greatest hope, that these schools are ones that not only rethink what school is, but they just basically change what people think is possible. That to me feels like the single greatest need across this country. We have to change what people believe. Good to see all of you.
Thank you, Sandeep. I would love for Pooja now to share what you are most excited about for this incoming cohort. Some of whom, hopefully all of the people here would have a chance being that incoming cohort. Pooja, what would be something you're most excited about for them?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Pooja and very excited to be here. One thing that I'm most excited about the incoming cohort is I feel we've learned so much ourselves in the past few months that I feel just in terms of the experiences that the cohort is going to have in terms of their school design, launch, and run journey is going to be incredible. And I feel we have a current cohort of 11 entrepreneurs who are going to also act like examples for this incoming cohort, which I'm very, very excited about.
All right. Thanks, Pooja. Thanks, Sandeep, once again. We actually, before we dive into the application itself, I wanted to share a poll with you. Really quickly, Pooja, do you think you could, since you're also from this account, could you see if you have access to the polls? Yes, so could you share the pre-poll?
Can you see it?
Quick question, if anybody is able to see the poll in the screens. Guess it's just me then. All right, Pooja, could you share the results?
Yes, absolutely. So almost 75% of people feel that who are attending this are saying they are going to apply to the incubation. And on the question of how confident they are about the application readiness, so on average, everybody is scored like a 3 to 4 on how ready they are. So I think this session is going to be extremely useful for all of them who want to apply for the incubation, but have some questions to be answered.
Okay, amazing. Fantastic. So that's what we're here for. As some of you may have attended our first info session, which focused on sharing more about the circle and our journey and your questions around that. This session is purely focused on how to help you actually successfully write your application. It's an intense process. And so we wanted to kind of start sharing with you what the journey might look like. So as you must have seen on your application itself, if you've started, is that it's divided into 5 sections. The first is the basics, right? This is a very, very quick one. And this is the one that asks you about your name, your email ID and your phone number so that we are able to contact you to help you out. And it also asks you a little bit about the major stuff that it really asks you about is your primary motivation in applying to the Circle's incubation. We also asked you to upload your latest resume there. This is so that we are able to understand who is reaching out to us, what your background is, and how we can help you best. For this particular section, which is what most people have been able to accomplish here, which is this is the registration part. Are there any questions that you might have here? If you have questions in this particular part, you can type it down on the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and ask these questions. Okay, Vivek says no questions. If you agree with that, if this seems to be clear to you, then let's have a thumbs up before we move on. All right. So if this is clear to you, let's actually do a quick activity around this. I want you to think about what you thought about when you were in this registration. And I want you to share your primary motivation in applying to the Circle's incubation. Yeah. I want you to share your motivation in applying to the Circle incubation. Of course, it's not going to be exactly the same as in your registration, but I want you to try it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to have rooms with about 2 to 3 participants, and I would love for you to go there, use about 4 minutes total to quickly share out your 2 sentences about your primary motivation in applying to the Circle's incubation. I want you to do that so that you're able to meet the people who are going through the same experience as you are, and who hopefully might someday be part of the cohort like you. Yeah, so let's take the next 4 minutes and share with our groups our primary motivation in applying to the Circle's incubation. Okay, so let's see if everybody is back. All right, let's get it. But it's always a good idea to start these spaces with why you're here in the first place. What we've learned from our previous experience is that just going through the application itself is a great way for you to understand where you're coming from, why now that you want to apply for the incubation, whether this is the right idea, whether this commitment is for you or not, and really how excited you really are. Something that Naval Ravikant says, who I'm currently obsessed with, is that if you're excited by something, but you feel like you might be bored down the line, keep looking. And especially the incubation is the kind of commitment which is long-term. And so helping you kind of determine that. So this is the process. Next, I'm going to take you through the application questions, and I'm going to just skim through some of the competencies that's taking us through. Post that, I'll share some of the timelines, some important dates around the application with you. Then I will open up to questions about the application as well as the program itself. Yeah. All right. So once you've done that, what you'll notice is that the next part begins with us getting to know a little bit more about you. Right. So we are eager to get to know you. So we begin by asking you some of these questions. What's been your most satisfying and impactful achievement in life? When you're working with children, whether you work with children from low-income communities, tell us about that experience. And if you haven't, tell us why you want to start now. Also help us understand a little bit about about yourself, where you see your strengths playing out. And this is through a tool that we use called the range report. Now, what we want to learn from you through this section is a little bit about how you view impact and achievement, what your commitment to equity is, something that you will notice when you go through our website and just about any communication everywhere, that across our commitment to reinvention, we are also just as committed to equity, because we believe that breakthrough schools are needed specifically for children who do not have access to it in India. We have now seen some great examples in the country where there are schools with resources, schools with reinventive ideas, and exclusively reaching only children who come from backgrounds with high resources. And so we are continuing to commit to working with children from low-income communities. What that would look like for you in the program is that, are you willing through your school or after school space to commit to at least 50% of your children coming from low-income, low-resource backgrounds? Which is why we ask you this question. And the reason we ask you the question around the range report is, one, to understand, where your strengths and areas of development lie, but even more importantly, to understand what your perspective on that is, how you've been able to utilize this, and what your reflection on that is. If you have any questions around this, do either raise your hand or drop your question in the chat. We will come back to all the questions again at the end. So either do a raise of hand and we can take your name down, or you can drop your question in the chat and we will come back out and do that. All right, Samriti, thank you. All right, it seems like you're the only one with the question around this, so we're going to move on. Now, I actually, thanks Anil. So we'll come back to Samriddhi and Anil first in the Q&A. Okay, now this is a very interesting question. We wanted to ask you why the circle, right? And we want you to answer this for us through a video. And I would actually love to hear from one of you why we've asked for a video.
Want to see us how we express ourselves live.
Yeah, how do you experience it lesser? Absolutely. What else?
I think it also acts as a elevator pitch
Absolutely.
to be able to share a conviction about.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think both the responses are correct. We are looking at interaction. There's a reason why I'm here in front of you on this Zoom link, because I can communicate with you through email. We can communicate with you through social media. But when we talk right now, when you see my face and when you hear my voice, that communication may tell you a little bit more about the circle than simply a written communication might. And we wanted to add that dimension to our application as well. We thought that there was a huge difference in how much we felt the authenticity of applications in our last cohort when they came through the video format as well. And secondly, definitely this acts as your elevator pitch. This is a space for us to hear about your clarity of thought. And that comes in when you have one, the constraint of a video format, two, the constraint of 3 minutes only. Yeah, so you know this is 3 minutes only. Which is why we want to hear you talk about that. If you have questions around that, you can drop your name on the chat and we'll come to you. One question that may come up is, what if you're unable to upload the video? There is a chance that one, if you're either using a phone, or two, if the network is not as reliable, or the data upload speed is low, that you're unable to upload. There, one, you can quickly, you can read through the FAQ when we mentioned this, that write down what you are going to put on the video and share with us your video at info@thecircleindia.org. And we will be able to then align that with that. We are hoping that you don't have to do that because it is cumbersome for sure. It's not ideal, but if there's no other way, then we can take it this way. Ideally, you're able to just upload through the type form. All right, I'm done, noted. We'll come back to a question. Next, we actually want to know about your circle of support. This is an application question that wasn't as detailed in the previous cohort, and we've added a question around who is in your circle of support and how have you leaned on them. Why? Because we feel that this is just as critical as all the other competencies that we are looking for. We want to know who is in your circle of support. We want to know whether you do have the orientation to seek out support, and how you've been able to develop and cultivate that. Obviously, the rest of it is a straightforward, clear-cut reference process, which I'm sure most of you are used to if you've ever applied for any role. So I wouldn't go too deep into that. But the first element is we want to know from you what it means to you to have a circle of support and how you seek support, help through your network. If you have any questions around this, do put your name down. Amazing. This is again, this is very straightforward. This for us is simply declaration for the most part. The first question being something that does confuse people, that how do I know how many years I envision committing to running school after school center? See, we believe that this process is 5 years to a lifetime, nothing less than that. If, however, you have a team in place, if you have a plan in place, then of course, this is person to person and very application specific. But what we want to see from here is, are you really in it for the long haul? And not because we will differentiate based on that, but because this will determine whether you will find the incubation programming effective enough for you. Because most of the programming that we do is kind of stuff that helps you pan out for the future. And if you're looking for stuff that will help you immediately within the first 2 years, this might not be the best program for you, right? So this is also for you to be able to see whether this fits into your life plan. Are you really ready to commit for years? Then there's a few questions for us to gauge where you're at in terms of where you are with your current role and position, what kind of support you'll need. You will be getting a recording, yes. What kind of support you need, and whether you will have actively be working your school or you'll be starting it off from scratch. I know already that some of the people who are in this call and some of the people who have signed up that you are in different parts of your journey there. Right? We would love for you to actually go through the incubation program, blog, brochure, in fact, the entire website, really, so that you are as clear as possible with what we are offering. And in the end, we've added what have you learned about yourself through this application. This is also a question that gave us a lot of insight last year in how you've been able to leverage the application process itself. I thought it was very, very interesting what we found out about what everybody had learned through the process when you're responding to some of these questions themselves. And we want to know that when we incorporate it into your application. Do put down your name if you have a question around any of this. All right, so that's actually it. That's the end of those questions, of your application questions. This are some of the timelines and dates for you. As you know, the application is already open from March 9th to April 28th. So many of you asked the question, how many entrepreneurs are we looking to select for this cohort? We hope to select a cohort of 6 to 8 entrepreneurs for our cohort. The invite for the assessment center will be shared latest by May 6th. So your application deadline is April 28th. Your invite for the assessment center post a successful application will be shared with you by May 6th. Within that period, between April 28th to May 6th, you may find a lull in communication. We will try and continue to communicate with you, but if you feel like there is no communication, it's because you're busy, really deeply invested in the applications you've sent to us. But we assure you that by May 6th, you will have a communication. The day for the assessment center is fixed for May 19th. What we will let you know is that if you are invited for the assessment center, we will be sponsoring your travel and accommodation. And the assessment center may run over 2 days. So it may be May 19th and 20th, and starts in the second half of May 19th, ends in the first half of May 20th. The reason we want to do that is because we want to incorporate the feedback that we got from our first cohort, which was that they would love for even the assessment center to reflect the values of reinvention as well as possible. So we're actually planning a really, really interesting experience for those 2 days. Definitely ways of assessment, ways of selection that you may never have experienced before or seen before. It's going to be fun. The invite offer for the incubation cohort will be shared with you latest by May 30th. And the cohort begins in August. In the first week of August 2023, the cohort will begin. We're sharing this with you so that even before you reach these levels of selection, you are able to understand in your mind that given your current position and situation, where do you stand in terms of the 2-year commitment and in terms of the 2-day commitment for the assessment center. We have shared with you our FAQ document as well. I hope that you have read through it. And if you haven't, now is a good time to kind of read through it. But this brings us to the end of the information that I will share with you today about the application questions, as well as the dates and the timelines. Could you write down your names if you have questions around the timelines? Okay, amazing. All right. Please keep writing your names down for us to kind of go through those questions for you. Before we move into questions, I also want to give you an umbrella understanding of the program itself. As I shared, the program is divided into 3 aspects: design, launch, and run your school or after school center. When we think about design, we are talking about focusing on developing a vision. I'm going to stop share this. When we talk about design, we're focusing on developing a strong vision and theory of change for your school or after school center. But even before that, we begin with an induction. When we begin in August, we will very likely, the induction will go on for longer than a week. And the way it works is that every module begins with 1 in-person space that lasts for about 5 days, followed by 3 to 7 weeks of in our async period, which is where you are implementing on the field wherever you're building your center. So that's the structure it follows through the year. In the first year, this looks like mostly meeting once every month in a location determined based on the focus of the module. And then spending the next 3 to 3.5 weeks implementing in your own location. In year 2, we give more space to implementation. So the space between in-persons elongates. So you're able to focus more on the run bit, the launch and the run bit. The locations where we meet vary based again on the focus of the module. For our induction module, we met in Pune. For our next module, we've met in Mumbai. We've met in Delhi. We've met in Ahmedabad. We also do an international visit exchange, a school exchange, where we went to the UK. And we will be meeting in the forthcoming modules for this cohort in Bangalore, Goa, Kolkata, so on and so forth. We do this by picking the focus of the module and figuring out what might be the right space with the right center that we could visit. Our design modules are our induction module, where you understand your context, yourselves, each other, build community with your cohort, as well as learn about your community when you go back to the field by conducting interviews and conducting customer melas, where you actually speak with your likely parents, your likely students, your likely stakeholders. We also move into key vision and theory of change, as I said, moving into learning experiences that you want to create, and then a longer curriculum module, which spreads over about 7 to 8 weeks. We then are now in this cohort moving into building key roles, which are your teams, your leadership team, moving into a very exciting module around building your impact model, your revenue models, and your fundraising, and then moving into storytelling and pitching. This is how year 1 will end. And then year 2 focuses a lot more on operation, which is building capacity, building and maintaining and improving budgets, locating resources, and continuing effort on fundraising as well. So that's what your 2 years will look like. I hope I have covered the key aspects of it. Now, as you heard me, do put your name down if you have questions around the programming itself. around this particular topic that I'm speaking about. As you do that, I'm going to open it up to questions. All right. So let's start with Samriddhi. Samriddhi, you had a question for the beginning of the presentation. Samriddhi, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you. So yeah, I had a question in the phase 2 of the application, which talks about if we've worked with low-income communities, students coming from those communities. And I just wanted to understand, so does the question ask us to explain our understanding of the low-income communities, or does it ask us to explain the kind of work we've done with those communities if we have so? So I just wanted clarity on that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. That is also a question that has come up earlier with some of the applicants. My quick response will be the latter. We just want you to share with us the work that you've done. If as part of the work that you've done, you also share with us what your understanding of it has become, then that's great. But our focus is learning from you, one, either the work that you've done and in what capacity, or why you want to start now. If you haven't worked with low-income communities before, and yet you feel like the Circle Incubation is the right space to apply to, why? What is motivating you right now? That might be more of a why question, but the first one is definitely understanding your context. Does that, I hope that's your question? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Anil.
Yeah, so my question is on those similar lines. Just so that everybody knows, yesterday only we had a fifth year annual day in the school, which I found the vision is also on the similar lines, completely aligned. So when we say low income communities, can we be more specific? So these schools have been running, the vision is to provide holistic education in rural areas where they're missing out on a lot of things. So the specifics on that, low income, I mean, what are the, if we talk in terms of numbers?
Yeah. Yes. So we have actually deliberately not made a specific line for us because it varies. It varies from different parts of the country, from whether you're rural, semi-rural, urban. It varies based on whether you are in the metropolitans or in tribal areas. And it varies whether you're in the north, south, east, or west. What we mean are the children that you're focusing on, are they denied breakthrough education because of a lack of resources in the communities that they come from? And that's as clear as that. You can share more about the context of the children you work with in the response to that. But that's going to remain our position here. That is a low income leading to the a low resource and low access to opportunities for the children that you're working. Yeah? I hope that clarifies. We absolutely kept it not a clear line because we don't believe that anybody has actually cracked what that line is.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Alamdar. Thank you for asking that question, Anil. It was really, really helpful for me to also share that with everybody.
Yeah, hello. I just want to understand how how the importance has been given, will be given here. For example, if I divide the things into three, the whole application or the thing in three parts, whether the more focus is towards the opportunity that the person has, or is it the focus is on the idea that the person is getting, okay, or is it the person's skill set? For my understanding, this divided into three components. So how it is, or is the mixture of all three, or is something else?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to be honest with you here. Your ideas will also convey to us a skill set, which is vision with the clarity of thought. However, that idea itself will likely change. It should, as it evolves through all the experiences that we put you through, all the people you meet, and the way you kind of open up your horizons. So the specific idea itself is not as important as your clarity of thought. Why do you want to do this? Do you have a clarity on why you believe that that is a hypothesis that will work? That's what we want to see. Again, even when whatever question we ask you throughout, we are seeking orientations. What's your clarity of thought? What's your vision? What's your commitment? And vision making ability, commitment making ability, right? So there definitely comes down to that. Even when we ask you about your past experience, that's what we're gauging. Even when we ask about what you want to do in the future, that's what we're gauging. Yeah, it all comes down to our understanding of the orientation. Does that help? Amda?
Yeah, what I understood is you are trying to understand the commitment and the clarity that the person has, irrespective of the idea, because that's going to be modified or more fine-tuned, right, through the program. So the idea is not the major thing over here for time being. What about the opportunity the person has? How much the weightage that will be having, whether the person just started a school or about to start a school or already part of a school or something? Will that not have any weightage?
See, I'll tell you again, the reality of this is that what we've seen is when you have done a pilot, even if you haven't started what you're here in the incubation to start, if you've done any kind of work that helps you clarify some of your hypotheses, right? If you believe that through art as a language, you're able to work with a more diverse group of children and able to create excellent student outcomes, if that's your hypothesis, and you get that hypothesis by having done workshops with different schools, the clarity that to your application that will bring is so strong. So it will definitely impact. If you've been able to pilot or work with children and you're able to bring that into your application, it will show through, it will come through. So my response will come back to what I said earlier, which is that even in terms of where you're at, have you already launched? Have you done any pilots? Is this based off of your learning? Is again telling us your orientations. Yeah. But this is again case to case. You saw that we're looking for a very small cohort.
Yes.
So each person in the cohort can come from very different walks of life, just like the cohort that we have right now. Some of them had been running a pilot for a year. Some of them are starting now. But if you're able to convey some of the orientations and convince us, then we go forward.
Okay, thank you. I have one more thing, which was the last part of it. You mentioned that they have been traveling in many parts of the country, it was domestic as well as international. In such cases, how the traveling and the itinerary and all the charges, who has to bear? Whether is the person has to bear or the circle will help in that? How it will be?
The circle sponsors the travel and accommodation for all in-person events that we ask to invite.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's like a plain and simple response. Yeah. Okay. Shruti, you had another question?
Yeah, it's a tiny question about the references that you've asked for. If you can specify what's the time commitment for them, because this is also a time when people are filling a lot of referrals. It just helps to tell them that this is the amount of time commitment that's required of them if I put them down as reference. So just want to know that.
That you mean that what will we ask of them?
Yeah, just how much time will it take? Whatever you ask of them, that's obviously between you and the referee, but just how much time?
Yeah, so what we usually do is we just ask them for a time that will work for them for a 10 to 15 minute call.
All right. Okay, got it. I had another question about timelines that I'll ask you towards the end, but for now, this is good.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Anil?
Yeah.
He's gone on mute.
Yes.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. The question is about the sharing the experience of the impactful and satisfying work done. So I worked in IT for 15 years, where there are a lot of interesting things I did, and I like it for lifetime probably. And as part of the Ripples school, last 5 years, it's a tremendous journey in working with rural children and teachers and parents. So how do you want me to, I mean, which one should I, or is it okay? I am not able to, you know, mention this or that, or which one is preferred.
Anil, could you clarify that question for me again?
The question in the second part, the question was about sharing a work which is more impactful and satisfying.
Yeah.
So for me, the work done in IT is also in that way, an IT career where I've worked with various MNCs, and at the same time now in last 5 years I'm working with rural school.
Got it. Okay. I got your question. The response to that, it is up to you, right? We are not going to give you a direction. Okay, no, only choose this type of success of achievement or impact or achievement. It is up to you. Again, like I was telling that the what we are trying to gauge is how you view impact and how you view success. What you learn from that. And also just a little bit, we want you to go beyond your resume. You'll already have shared your resume, but we want to learn from you in your mind what that would look like. For you, what that is. That's often for some people, for example, some of the most impactful responses were also personal, right? Something that they had done individually. So again, giving you that freedom to do that, and just gauging from you how you've learned through it and grown through it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, amazing. Okay. All right, Alinda, I think it was your question again.
Yeah, but I'm done. I have asked the other one also, right? At the same time.
Okay, cool. Shruti? All right, let's move to Kamlesh. Kamlesh, you had a question for us?
Yeah, I have. So one thing is about the time commitment during the incubations here. Although I'm working with the similar ideas with my own schools, creating a space where a student of the rural background have a holistic education and joyful learning. But again, since I'm a co-founder and also running the school, teaching in the classroom as well as a part of the rural teaching fellowship, also leading the fellowship. So again, my question is about the time commitment. Although there is a lot of alignment between what we are doing and what the circle is trying to, uh, I mean, there is a lot of what I call convergence. But again, the time commitment during the incubations here that I am asking, like how much time I have to give in the physical session as well in the virtual session, apart from designing and implementing the idea.
Yes, great question there, Kamlesh. Excuse me. So I'll first paint a picture for what your physical commitment will look like. Apart from the first time, which is the induction, which might be 8 to 10 days. Every month, we will ask you to be in person with the entire cohort for 5 days. Yeah, which is basically Monday to Friday usually. In those 5 days, while we give some space, because all the entrepreneurs that we work with, like you said, are full-time commitment, and they often have a lot of work even during that time. We do give some space for them to kind of do that. But a lot of the time during those 5 days goes in programming, in meeting, in visiting, in networking. The rest of the next 3 weeks of the month look more flexible. You are in your space, you are implementing some of the milestones and deliverables. For example, conducting interviews. For example, filling out your budgetary projection. So while each of them, each week, you'll have a milestone to accomplish. The timeline within which you accomplish it is flexible. To also acknowledge, Kamlesh, your idea about the fact that you are a full-time co-founder with an organization. We also have a lot of our founders who are in that space. We have Sakshi, who's running Anubhuti organization, has been doing that for a while. We have Anjan, who runs another organization. We have Mithun, who actually runs 2 more organizations. But they're able, what they've done is that they've committed that for the 2 years, and especially for this first year, we are going to take out time from our days and months because we feel that it's going to benefit the organization that we are building. Shoaib, another example, who has been running Pana communities for a couple of years now. And so there's lots of such examples of founders who are coming out for 5 days, so they're able to bring back multifold and do value add to the same organizations that they're working with. I'm going to plug really quickly here, friends, that some of our entrepreneurs actually are going to join us in a couple of weeks for an EIR panel for you to also just ask them what their experience is like. So I'm just going to put that there as well. We'll be sharing more information around that shortly. But Kamlesh, does that answer your question for now? Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
In terms of numbers, and I'll do this for everybody, 30% of your time in the first year is going to be in person overall through the year. We're going to reduce that to about 20% in the second year and maybe later. Right? So I just wanted to kind of put that as well. A few quick numbers. All right. Sanam, you had a question.
Yes. Hi, Arshia. I had a question regarding the assessment center. I think you've mentioned that it's going to be 2 days and the document says it's 19th of May. So would that be like 18th and 19th or 19th and 20th? And if you could just, repeat what you mentioned that, there's going to be the previous cohort members there. Yeah, thank you.
It will likely be 19th and 20th.
Okay. And if you could repeat what you mentioned that there will be the cohort members of last year.
No. So what I had mentioned at that time was that it was based on the feedback from our previous cohort members to have an assessment center that lives up to the reinvention lens. So we are having a very different kind of space. So for that, we are going to require half and half of a day, which is why we're doing 19th and 20th.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanam. Gulshan, you had a question?
Hi, Arshia. My question has been answered already.
Okay, great. Dushyant?
Yeah, it's regarding the program itself. What kind of support do we get? And what form?
Okay. Could you clarify that, Dushyant, like what kind of support in terms of?
Right. What are the inputs that we get from this, or let's say benefits of the whole program?
Yeah, I'll give you the big umbrella because this can be a very long, extensive answer. So the first stuff is just one is monetary support. We provide a stipend to our entrepreneurs, definitely for the first year, and then need-based for the second year. That's one. The second support that we provide are the in-person and async facilitation sessions. Here we bring in experts from around the country and the world to come in and conduct spaces for you to enable you to build a relevant theory of change, for example, to build curriculum that is aligned to your key learning experiences. How to enable you to hire the right team, how to enable you to build follow through and budget for your specific and unique revenue model, impact model, and budgetary projections. How to help you to tell a more compelling story, and how to help you to kind of pitch that as well as market and communicate that. Those are some examples of how we bring people in to help you facilitate that. Second kind of support, programming support, is that we are trying to make sure that you have access and exposure to breakthrough schools and after school spaces at the very least across the country, which is why we moved from cities to city, so that we're able to cover them all for you, as well as internationally. So this year we went to the UK and visited 8 schools in 8 days, and people have come back just with a completely transformed perspective and what's possible. For this cohort, we may do this again, or we may go to the United States, depending on what the plan is. So that are the visits and exposure. And then we have 2 kinds of mentoring for you. One is a coach. Your coach will take you through your own programming process. So how you bring your concept to design, how you do your design pilot and implementation, and what you prototype you build, and how do you test it, what are you learning from it, how you implement it, and then building your curriculum and like designing spaces, designing all of that. So that's programming perspective. Each of our coach, we have one coach mapped to 1 to 3 entrepreneurs, usually within this, not more than this, but usually less than this, depending on what their commonalities are. And these coaches help you programmatically. And we also connect you almost at the end of your first year, which is, for example, right now with the cohort, to mentors who are likely to champion you, to build your board, to advise you, and potentially support you in your fundraising as well. So these are some of the supports. Now coaching will look like once a week for an hour, you will be meeting with your coach. And mentorship looks much more like an industry kind of a mentorship, where you build your relationship with that mentor. That mentor is likely to be a high net worth individual, or someone who either has access to spaces that will fund organizations like yours, or who themselves has a network that can help you get there, right? So this is the multi-pronged approach to support. Even post the incubation, we will continue to be part of a network of support, including a dedicated person to help the entrepreneurs launch, whether it requires support with working with the government, support with registration, support with licenses and permissions, because we know that is important. Support with finding out the right logistics and resources, such as land, contractors, etc. So yeah, I hope that is able to answer your question. I am quite sure I haven't finished all the resources you're going to provide, but these are the big headlines.
Yeah, sure. That did answer my question. And another thing is, I've been working this NGO sector for a while, but for the time being, it's a question of survival for me. So I'm not sure if the 50% thing, if I could implement. What is your stake on that? I mean, what is your take? Yeah,
it's quite clear actually. It is quite clearly 50%. If you're not able to kind of commit to at least 50% of the students that you serve coming from low resource backgrounds, then the Circle Incubation might not be the right place.
Right. So as you said, the definition of it is basically people who are denied this proper educational resources, right? The definition of.
Yeah. We do value socioeconomic integration a lot, because we've seen that in itself is a learning experience for all children in a student body. But we definitely want at least the 50% of our population to come from communities with low amount of resources. So yeah.
Right. Okay, I want to start in 3-tier town, but I'm not sure what section of people would fit into your criteria. We will discuss on that later.
Sure.
For the stages. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
No worries. Lakshmi, let's have one last question. You can ask the final question.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you. Thanks, Ashia. So my question was basically on the articulation of the idea itself when you're preparing the video and uploading it. How concrete should the idea be, or can it be at a concept level? So for example, if I'm looking at experiential learning in STEM, for instance, let's say for middle school, primary school, or whatever, do I have to be very specific about how I'm going to do that through a club or, so I'm just, trying to figure out what could be at what level should we articulate that idea?
Yeah, good question. I'll tell you, while we won't keep like I won't have a response that is like drawn in the line. When you add specificity to your response, what that does for the person who's hearing it is it helps us visualize it. So yes, there is a chance if you're able to really pinpoint why you think this is the hypothesis that will work and how you might be able to change student outcomes. If you're able to answer those questions as concretely as possible, it's likely to convince the person who's listening to your pitch, right? As long as you're able to have the why and how that clear. That is just how, like humans function as well. So if you can be able to bring in that specificity, that's great. What I'm saying, what I'm warning against is big ideas that are not grounded in your why, in a strong why you think this works, and big ideas through which you don't know how that's actually going to change student outcomes. Yeah. All right. So I acknowledge that we are over time by a couple of minutes now. So if you need to drop off, please feel free to do so. With that, I know that Jafar has raised their hand, and so has Aramdar, and Vivek also has a question. So let's go in that sequence, Jafar. Jafar.
Yeah. Hi, it's Jafar. Hi, Arshia. Yeah. Yeah. So my question is around like what kind of expectations does the circle have after someone has started the program? I mean, in terms of expectations, I mean, like, are we looking at some numbers of students being impacted, or how is the impact, or what kind of expectations in general are there from, I mean, like, apart from attending and learning through and participating in the learning journey, uh, from the impact side or the work side or the return side of the efforts we are putting, or what are the problem we are solving? So from the solution side, do we have any expectations?
Great question. Yes. So while we deliberately do not talk about scale, because we feel that to be able to go deep and crack a model for breakthrough innovation in school and after school spaces, it is absolutely fair to start small. We also don't want you to be stuck with working with a very, very small group of children for the next step, right? So we welcome starting with a pilot, starting small, so that you're able to iterate on your model a few times. But eventually, we do want you to have a vision that expands that impact a little bit. I can give you examples of what that might look like for two of our cohort members. That might clarify the. One of our cohort members wants to build a model space and then replicate that model over and over again. So the scale is in replication. They don't want to build a school with 1,700 people. They want to build a space and then replicate it community by community by community. So that's one big idea. Another of our entrepreneurs wants to build a school and wants to expand it from 50 to 100 to eventually 500, 700. Right? So that's the vision with which they're starting. And a third of our entrepreneurs will keep their cohort small forever, because they believe that what that cohort produces is going to reach scale, because they are building it's an after school space, it's a media space, and they're going to be building content that's by teams for teams, and their scale will be achieved by the people and the teams that they will impact through that. So three different vision of what scale can be, which is why we don't specify and kind of put you in a box. I hope that answers it.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Arshia. Yeah.
Ananda, let me come to you. Let's ask Vivek. Could you ask your question? Okay, no worries, Vivek. So you've already typed your question. Can this side of our school program be executed virtually like a cloud school? To be honest, we're not going to stop you. One of our entrepreneurs started with and currently continues to run a majorly cloud-based platform or virtual platform. They started in COVID with a little pilot, and they built it up and expanded it. And they're able to reach children across rural Karnataka through that model. But the key here remains: are you able to convey specific vision, specific hypothesis through which you will achieve student outcomes? If you're able to convey that, and if you're able to maintain that unique identity of your space, even if it's virtually, then we would definitely consider the application. We in fact have cohort members who are doing. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. Last question, Alana.
I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted to little clarification over there. Okay, what I heard might be a little wrong, right? So the idea of the 3 minutes video which we have to submit, right? In that, the idea will be there and why we want to do it, right? How we want to do it may not be a part of it, right? Because that's what we are at Circle, right? To understand that. Yeah, you want us to do it, how whether it is how mature it is or whatever the vague idea it is, let us, and want us to put how it is, how it should be part of the video.
Yeah. Once again, I don't want to restrict you on how you use your 3 minutes. Right? I will always say this, that the best way for you to make your 3 minutes most impactful is for you to figure out what's important to you. If your how is clearer, go for it, share it. If it is not, focus on the problem itself.
Yeah.
And some of your hypotheses and how you'll solve it and what the student outcome might look like. That's one example. But if your how is clear because you worked on it and you have data to show it, right? That I've actually worked with 50 children. I see that 36% of show this. So why not, right? So I'm going to leave it up to you to use your information, your clarity in the section that you have to use those things. I know this may not answer your question clearly, but that's.
I got it. I got the gist of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I'm going to bring it
one
back.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, go ahead. No, finish off with that.
Just wanted to clarify that it's again 8 minutes past the time. But I'm going to stay here till any of you have questions. But feel free to drop off if you haven't committed more than the hour. Yes, please continue.
Yeah, so when you're mentioning curriculum, you're saying your curriculum. So basically, we do have the freedom to set our own curriculum, and there's no pedagogical structure or format that is like imposed or that is required of us, right?
Give me a second. Yes. So no, the clear response to that is no. We want you to develop your own curriculum. If we would have some curriculum that we believe work, it would have made that module much easier. But it is to date one of our most complex modules to crack, because when you build a curriculum from scratch on a vision which has itself been made from scratch, it's a difficult journey. And we've seen that in play. But the reason why we started the circle, and this is something that you would have heard if you've heard Sandeep talk about the journey, is that the circle could have been a school that we would replicate over and over again around the country. We deliberately decided to go with a network of entrepreneurs who wanted to provide their hypothesis and their response to the problem, which is a lack of breakthrough schools and obsolete schooling system in the country. Why? Because we believe there is no right answer. We believe that responses vary from context regionally, demographically, socioeconomically, and very importantly, who is it that's cracking this model, right? The entrepreneur brings a lot of themselves into this. So your curriculum will be different, your ideas will be different. There are some beliefs that we keep in mind, however, that are clear. There's a commitment to holistic vision. Are we looking at a vision for student outcomes that goes beyond the academics? Because we don't believe that that's the future of education. we believe that the future of education goes beyond academics, focuses on skills, focuses on mindsets, focusing on social emotional learning as well. That's one. Second is a focus on measurable results. Are you able to track and see the outcomes that you promised the children that you will get? And how, right? So commitment to measurable results, and we will help you get there. A commitment, of course, to equity that we've talked about before. And a commitment to a greater understanding of self, others in India for every stakeholder, children, yourself, and the team itself. Within that large umbrella, and this you can learn more about on the website as well, we have it there. Within that large umbrella, make your own curricula based on your value system. I hope that answers your question.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Lakshmi asks, can the innovation be around teacher development? So Lakshmi, the Circle Incubation is focused quite clearly on direct impact with the students. So we will ask you to focus on student development. If you're working with children and for that purpose have a team that you're developing, it's great. But if you're focusing specifically on teacher development, then the Circle Incubation may not be the right place for you. Ravi asks, the question is about the process. Should we finish it in one sitting after? Take your time. We believe that it, so what I've seen is people successfully do this, which is why I've shared this document with you as well. All the questions are right there. I would urge you to think through those questions together in one go, so you're able to kind of frame your story. And then, and you can take time to do that, right? Take some time off on your weekend or on a day where you're freer. And then once you kind of set it up, I would recommend that you put it out in the application. One thing I recommend is that if you haven't registered, do that. The reason why is because we are not able to reach out to you and support you if you haven't finished the first part, which is that if you haven't shared with us your contact details, your resume, your motivation. If you don't do that, you are not in our cycle process of support. So I recommend that at the very least do that, and then use your time to finish out the application. Dushyant says that people come from similar thought process, independent of application. Do you think it's a good idea for people to get to know each other? Yes, please go ahead. Find the people you met in your breakout room, which is why we connect you in the first place. Meet them in the breakout room, meet on LinkedIn. It's also why we conduct several sessions across the Circle Labs to be able to continue to grow this tribe of people with this thought process and mindset. Someone has a raised hand. Shruti.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for staying even after the session, Arshia. I'll quickly ask and not take too much time. It was specifically about the assessment center. And of course, it's dependent on if I even move forward from the application stage. But since I'm doing my master's in Cambridge at the moment, travel for the assessment center is most likely not possible. And I was just wondering if that means that I should apply next year or wait, or is that something I should think about after the application stage? And I was just hoping to understand a little bit. My application is also tied up with the Kathivara School Foundation project, if you know about that. So I was just hoping to get some clarity before I invest a lot of time in filling out the application.
Absolutely, Shruti. This is definitely a case that we can take off. I would connect with you. I would recommend that you email me, and we can speak about this and figure it out offline, because it's a very rare one case that you're outside of the country. And you're also applying to the Kathivara. So yeah, let's do that. Why don't you send an email to me and we can take it.
All right, thank you.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming online and asking your questions. Even those who came online and didn't actually ask questions. Thank you for staying and listening to all your response. I hope that you feel like now you're better prepared to apply. And I hope that you feel that now you will apply to the incubation. Once again, the deadline for the application is 28th of April. We hope that you're able to finish out your application before that. As you leave this meeting and as we end this meeting, you will also see a survey pop up which is the same 2 questions we asked you at the beginning of the poll. And we'd love to see a response to that at the end of the session to see effectiveness. And so we could maybe switch things around next time we do this. Yeah. Thank you so much once again, everybody, for sharing your questions and your time.